My guest today is someone that I have admired for years in this industry. Caroline Eardley is the co-founder of Full Volume PR, a bold, straight-talking consultancy that helps ambitious brands cut through the noise, and there's so much noise. I still remember her and Rebecca coming into my old office to talk to me about the plans for Full Volume before they'd even started, and I knew straight away that it would fly. What I love about Caroline and the way that she runs her business is that she is unafraid to stand up and get key points across. She's one of the first people to say that she's often the loudest in the room, and that works. But she also wears her heart on her sleeve about the challenges, because running a new breed of agency isn't always glamorous. And by sharing those challenges openly, she not only builds a bit of a community, but also helps all of us feel less alone in the tough times. Full Volume has already picked up major recognition, including being named PR Moment's Micro Agency of the Year in 2024, which was lovely to watch from across the room. And it's built on Caroline's mix of passion, resilience, and fearlessness. Caroline, welcome to Accidentally Brilliant.
I don't know if I felt so flattered in my life. Thank you. I was literally just thinking when you were speaking then about how when we first started, you lent us a meeting room for our first pitch.
Did I?
Yeah,
did
you
I?
did. You had the office in Fortness Street, and we came to see you. And you said, if you need anything ever, and you lent us one of the pods for our first pitch, so we could make out that we were a real agency, not two chances. So yeah, what a start. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. I couldn't remember it. Take us back.
So
How did you find your way into PR?
Absolute fluke, and I think that's true of 90% of us, despite what people might claim. I was all set to do journalism, A-levels, very straight path, and then there was a boy involved, and I didn't want to go straight to university, so I took a year out, gap year. That obviously, didn't work because I was 17. And then during that time of that gap year, I did 6 months away in France working for Eurocamp. And then my dad worked for a big business in Manchester, Pisa Cousins. They had a partnership with TBWA, the creative agency back then. And he essentially got me some work experience in the PR agency. And I thoroughly enjoyed it and decided to switch my course. So I was going to do English at Leeds, and I went to do the PR degree at Leeds Met, which was the only one in the country back then. And I think it was considered a bit of a, the one that you would maybe do if you'd not done that well in your A-levels. Or I remember my dad saying to me very judgmentally, it's better to go and be a big fish in a small pond. And actually, it turns out everybody was brilliant. And I was the thicko.
It's so funny because when did you go to uni?
Oh my goodness, I don't want to say. 1999.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was with the gap year. I should have gone 98.
I went in 2007.
Stop it. Did you do that course?
No, well, so when I was applying,
Yeah.
I was looking. So I did PR and marketing.
Did you?
At uni.
Yeah. Awful.
And there were a few that were accredited by the PRCA. I was literally, when I was going around, I was like, oh, I'm picking ones that are accredited by the PRCA. My friends were like, who is it?
Hell?
And Leeds was one of them, but I didn't want to go to Leeds because in my mind, there's nothing in Leeds.
Well, as well, I came from a family in the 90s where very much, if you didn't go to a red brick university, that was not the thing to do. Yeah. So going to a metropolitan, as a grammar school girl from Altrincham, it wasn't really the done thing, breaking the mold, but it was great. And then I went straight into my first agency job, and I've always been an agency girl through and through. I've never worked in-house. So a real falling. I got my first job, again, fluke. I remember my first pay. I used to get paid £11,000 a year.
The good old days.
I thought I was loaded.
I did as well. When I first started, I was like, I'm good.
Get my first salary. Much. Honestly, I think it was less than £1,000. I thought, oh, what a dream.
Minted.
And then that was it. 3 years in Manchester, 2 years in Manchester, and then 6 in London.
Yeah.
And then I've been back here since 2010.
Thinking about it now, right? Do you think, so if we were talking about this 10 years ago and we were talking about the L word, right? You'd have to go and spend that time. Do you think you have to now?
No.
No.
I don't. And I think the reason, to be honest, the reason I went then wasn't necessarily to, the big bright lights of PR. I had a friendship group in London and I thought, the life in general will be more exciting. However, what I do think then, the difference between the North and South divide then was there. I thought back then, so I went to London in 2004. I would not have got the experience and the exposure in London agencies if I'd not done that. So sorry, for the PR world, if I'd not done that. I moved from a small Northern agency, and it was still great, but to suddenly be working, I worked in some of the big London agencies, working on celebrity stuff, working on glitzy things, entering awards. But there were some crazy years, and I don't think it's for everybody. No. I look back now and I think, I always say that my retirement plan is going to be writing some sort of tell-all book about that time, because you look back now and you think, oh my goodness, how did any of us actually survive? We used to go out all night and then just sleep under the desk and then, log on at 9 a.m. And it was tough. It was really tough. And I think you can only do it for a certain amount of time. And I was 5 years back home, when I was 30. And that was the right thing to do. Yeah, that was the right thing to do.
I think that so much has changed in the North.
Yeah, it has.
For the good.
I don't think now. I think if anybody said to me, if anyone was coming into the industry and said, do I need to go to London to further my career? Absolutely not. And I think that position has changed. And I think that so many of the Northern agencies have helped with this. Calling out Brazen as an example. I think they've done so much to do the positioning around, we are a national agency, we're just based in Manchester. And that's exactly how we see ourselves. And you guys see yourself as that. Yeah. But it was fun. And I think that's the thing with PR, nobody really knows what they're getting into. And I think it's changed so much. Obviously, the job, I was a very young junior, but the whole industry, I think it's harder now. And I think sometimes, sadly, it might be less fun now for people. I worry about my girls who are, the job is very much driving SEO coverage and links and digital and thinking very much in those terms. Whereas for me, we worked for Children in Need and had a life-size cake of Terry Wogan, had to get it on the front of the Sun and that sort of stuff. Yeah. It wasn't a better time, but it was a different time.
It was different.
It's been exciting.
It's the shift in terms of priorities and focus. But
absolutely,
I think you will know as well the importance of a great story,
and that's never changed.
No,
and the hunger hasn't changed. I still remember myself as an account executive. I remember the first piece of coverage I ever got was in the Daily Star on Sunday. R.I.P. And it was, I knew it was going, it was a Father's Day gift guide. I can't remember the client. And I knew it was going in. And I remember getting out of bed and literally running to the corner shop to buy the Daily Star Sunday. And I actually think that my team, and I'm sure other people as well, still get that same buzz with press coverage. And so I know that when we work together, we do. So I think the sort of passion, the fire is there. But I think it's maybe harder nowadays.
It does feel tougher. My first piece of coverage, which is I find hilarious, was I was aged, whatever age you were, 20, 21?
21. I
know, literally. And I worked with this expert who was an expert on gold.
Niche.
And I got them into The Guardian about the changes.
That's good coverage.
Not bad. Not bad.
For your first hit, bet on the Daily Star Sunday.
Well, yeah, I was classy. Right?
You were classy, I was not.
It was about gold price, and I was reading it, and I had no idea.
Expert commentary.
No idea what it was. Still don't. And I've still got that piece in my little thing.
Stop it.
I found it the other. When you used to make like a file effect.
That's the thing. I remember going to job interviews with scrapbooks. And there was the spray stuff, and you used to build your own portfolios. Yeah. And it was competitive back then. I think going to London, interviewing, I think me being Northern did give me a bit of an edge. It did. I remember working at an agency called 77PR, which was fantastic. I remember we were doing a sell-in around regional dialects, and one of the girls was speaking to a journalist, and the journalist was just giving her grief. And my boss at the time said, "Can you try ring that journalist with the same story, just half an hour's gap?" And because I had a Northern accent, the reception was so different. Mm-hmm. So I think it did, in a way, work in my favour, having that sort of northern girl. I was going to say charm then, but it certainly wasn't that. Northern girl noise.
I agree.
Yeah, I do.
I agree. I think that there is, there are challenges of being based in the north logistically.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about the trains. I can't do that anymore. But
You've done that a lot.
I've done that a lot. But I think there are challenges being based in the north. But there are things that really swagger,
confidence,
the ability to kind of be like, well, no, we actually do things differently.
And I do think it was, I do think one thing I will always say, that even I worked in some big London shops, I was never ever told or encouraged to tone anything down, to modify my accent, to do anything. It was always, being from the north, being Mancunian can work for you. Yeah. So yeah, a great time. And then came back here for a few years, and then we set up Full Volume, blimey, nearly 8 years ago.
What gave you this? This sounds like a telling off question. What gave you the confidence? Where did that come from? What gave you the confidence
I was thinking
to strike out?
I've been thinking about this morning, actually, on my way here, thinking about this question. I was thinking, I don't think it was so much that I had the confidence to think, right, this is now what I'm going to do. It was more, I just thought to myself, I didn't overthink it. I thought, this is what I'm doing now. I thought, I'm taking this risk. And I look back now and I think to myself, you were off your head. You had just left your job. You had, I wasn't young. I was 37. But I had no savings. I had no clients. We had no investment. We didn't have an office. We had no staff. We had, I was on gardening leave for my job. So I had 3 months' salary in the bank, and that was it. And I have my bills to pay, my mortgage to pay, everything to deal with. Rebecca and I said to ourselves, we launched the business, we registered it on the 2nd of October in 2017. And we said to each other, we have to bill on the 1st of November because we both have enough money to get us through 2 months. A client has to pay us by December. And it was never really, this is the confidence, this is the gung-ho. It was just, this is just what we're going to do. Yeah. And it wasn't panicky, and it wasn't sort of, oh my God. It was just very much, like I say, looking back, it was crazy. It was very much, this is now our job, this is our life, and we're going to make this work. Yes. And we were quite, I think, non-hysterical in the approach, and we weren't super sort of loud and excited. That's grown as we've grown. It was more just I was done with agency life. I was a little bit burnt out. I had a period of quite bad mental health during the end of that past agency experience. And I just thought, now is the time. I've always been a worker girl, a hard worker. I always thought to myself, if this doesn't work, I don't really care. I'll go and work in Tesco for a bit. Or I'll go back to agency life. I probably wouldn't do that.
I could see that.
I could go back, yeah, exactly. To go and work on the checkout. I'll go and be an account director in an agency. I knew I would get another job if it didn't work out, but there was never really consideration. I thought, if I'm ever going to make a leap or a step to build a better life for myself, it's now. And there was no thought process, which is crazy. There was no thought process that we might fail, because we couldn't fail. I remember Rebecca saying, my co-founder saying, do you think we'll actually get clients? And I remember me just saying, yeah, of course we will. And we did. And, that might sound arrogant. It's not meant to. It was, the thought process was just very much, this is now what we're doing, and we are going to make this work. Yeah. Nice and calmly. But yeah, looking back now, giving myself 8 weeks to build something but we did. It was fine.
Did you manage to build?
We did. Yeah, we did really well. So by Christmas, we were doing, we have 3 clients. And it's been, I think, the thing that gave me the confidence, I could never have done it alone. I think having a co-founder completely changed the game. I'll be very open on this, because she and I have talked about this. When we first launched, I am 11 years older. I had a lot more experience. I was more senior in the agency that we worked in. That was very hard for her, because I was her boss. It was very hard for me. I was her boss in our previous agency, and then we were working together. And for a long time, getting into that mindset, we would go to pitches, and I'd say, we will do this, we will do this. And she would say, now you can't just delegate that to me. That's something now you now have to do. And to start with, I was like, oh my goodness. I think doing it together and finding somebody who was so good at everything that I wasn't, worked really, really well. But I don't know. I have so much respect for anyone who goes out and does it completely alone. I think it must be so hard.
I think so I went alone.
Yeah, I was about to say, you did.
And You're absolutely right. Do I wish I had a co-founder at the time? Yeah, God, yeah. I wish I could go back and have a co-founder, because what you have to learn really, really quickly is what you are absolutely shit at.
Yeah.
And there are lots of things that I'm absolutely shit at.
Yeah.
And you have to quickly understand those, because if they fall, you're
and that
over.
was it. And from day one, she and I were always very clear. You know, I'll say that she knows this. When we first launched, because I was older and I had 10 more years behind experience, my dad was very much, do not go 50-50 on this partnership. Even if you take a slight majority share, you've kind of, you've got more experience brings to the table. And from day one, I was always absolutely not. We were always 50-50. It didn't matter she was younger. She was so brilliant. She is so brilliant at the things that I am shocking at. I'm not allowed access to our bank account. When she was on maternity leave, she set up a feature where every time I made a purchase, she had to approve it for 6 months. So that sort of says what we're both good at.
Do you know, though, knowing Rebecca as I do, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. She would message and say, what is this? And I'd say, it's literally Amazon notebooks for the girls. It's $13.99. Please may I have it? I probably need to have a Rebecca. And that's how it worked. Yeah. And she was always very good at that side of thing. There was a client said to us once, she's the talker, she's the doer. And I think that's probably fair. I think, me being my personality, that's a little bit bigger, has maybe helped us get things over the line. But keeping them in the business is 100% down to her. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, no fear, which it sounds silly to say, but there was never any doubt that we would make this work.
It's not.
Which is good, I
to
think.
Me, it's not. It's not arrogance or.
No, it didn't feel like it.
It feels like confidence, and it feels like when people. I'm not this person, but when people talk about I'm putting it out into the universe, it was just that's what's going to happen.
I've said to my sister, in recent times, I've talked about it with my family. And my sister said to me, she said, when you first did it, I just got a new house as well, tied myself into a big monthly payment. And my sister said, we all thought you were absolutely off your head, So thank you for saying it. Nobody ever said anything, but, it was such a leap. And I think we just thought, let's go. So here we are.
You've always been bold in how you talk about PR.
Yeah.
What do you think brands need in today's world?
Lack of fear, authority, genuine credibility. I think there are so many brands out there just making very outlandish claims, sort of talking the talk, focusing very much on what they look like rather than brands that are actually stand for something. I think people are getting savvier, much more sort of conscious of what they want to spend their money on. And I think if brands aren't standing for things, if they're not genuinely authentic, and people aren't stupid, consumers are bright. They can see through fake non-authenticity. They know when they're being sold to. They know when they're being mugged off. I think if brands want to survive, there has to be a boldness, but there has to be something that people see and think, you know what, I want that in my house. I want that in my bathroom. I want that in my kitchen. I think people are scared nowadays. I do. I think being a brand manager nowadays, I think is really, really hard. I always used to think that I would love to go client side and I'd love to be a brand manager and I'd love to get an agency in a room and think, do the pitch process like I've had to do a million times. And now I think it must be one of the hardest jobs in the world to keep a brand relevant, and everything that goes with that in 2025, I think is a nightmare.
Thinking of your brand, what has been, since launch, what has been the boldest decision you've had to make at Full Volume to date?
Tell you what, I'll tell you what it is. I know what it is. The hardest moment is for us, it was a big lesson, leaning too heavily on one client. So when we first started, we had a good year. And then in 2019, so it had been going a year, we landed a contract with Tesco, which was absolutely huge. At the time, we didn't even have any employees. It was just Rebecca and I, and we literally got it through a fluke meeting with a marketing manager. It led to a pitch and it led to a brief to launch. Tesco did a discount chain, Jack's, in the north of England. Bear in mind, up to that point, we were billing, quite small amounts of cash, really. We were okay, but we weren't sort of shaking the tree. That came in and it was a Tesco. It was a decent retainer. It changed the game for us. It enabled us to grow. It enabled us to bring in staff. It enabled us to get an office, all those things. However, what it also did it made us lean so heavily on that one retainer and that one piece of business. And I actually think from a client service point of view, by that point, we had about 7 or 8 clients, but the Tesco was 4 times the size of any other. So you had to service it to that level. However, I look back now and I think, oh my goodness, every client was happy, but we lent so much on one brand to keep the lights on. And then when that folded 2 years later, that was a period of real change. Basically, it didn't work out for Tesco and they closed the stores. And for us, that was a real, oh my goodness moment. And I said in that moment, we will never, ever again, ever be in a position where we have literally so many eggs in one basket. Because if you can't do that. If one client goes, it can't be a house of cards. And it nearly was. And I think that's my biggest lesson, that for me, an agency of clients, sort of mid-level, almost not smaller brands, but kind of SMEs is my absolute, that's the best thing for us. I will never again lean so heavily on one corporate client to keep everything on for me. And that was a hard lesson.
It's so true. We did exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
When we first started, we had an amazing client, did amazing work. Brilliant. Loved it. They probably were about 60%.
Yeah.
And
I think this was 70. Too much. Never again.
And I, at the time, this is great. This is fantastic. I'm not bothered. This is great. And I brought in Sarah Waddington.
Yes.
As our non-exec. And one of the first things that we did was go through line by line. And one of the first, bells that she was ringing in my ear was, this is a challenge. And I was like, this ain't a challenge. And so then I started to work,
Absolutely.
And you have to be so aware of that stuff. But it's bonkers because you're on a high. You've won this amazing, huge brand name.
Absolutely. It's such a game changer, but it became too much of something that was. It was too much of everything. Yeah. And it wasn't right. And then I think the next thing, a few tough things, sacking clients. We've walked away from several. It's always been Rebecca who's forced to make the call because I'm too scared. However, I think, there's an empowerment in that as well. I think one thing, and I hope that my team would agree, that we have consistently got right is culture and making our team feel like they're absolutely integral to the success of our business, which they are. Any client who comes to work with us, who doesn't respect that, who breaks boundaries, who is rude, or even down to things of, not paying on time, I will walk away now without a moment's hesitation. There's an we're lucky in that we've obviously, we've got enough clients that we can do that, but there's real empowerment in that. But that's been, again, some tough decisions. There was one brand, I won't name them, but it was a great product. Load of coverage. We really enjoyed working on it. Just absolutely, just as people know. No. Didn't fit us in any way. No. It was one of those. And I remember as an account manager, as an account executive, having those sort of clients and the way your heart would sink when you saw that client's name in your inbox on a Monday morning, turn on your BlackBerry and really show my age here. And you go, oh, I used to getting the tube into work feeling sick about one client. And I thought to myself, I will never, ever, genuinely, will never put my team in that position. And we haven't. So there's been some hard decisions, but I am proud of the decisions we've made and how I genuinely do think we've put culture and the team at the heart of everything.
I think I couldn't agree more. It's so vital that, and it's so tempting. One of the guests that we spoke about earlier, Daniel, talked about something similar when it came to over-servicing.
Oh my goodness.
And he was talking about I think the biggest lesson that he had was, essentially knowing when to walk away and one how that will impact the business.
And it's so hard. And I think as the over-servicing question is a really, really valid, discussion point. It's so hard because we overservice. I think small agencies overservice every client because you want to wow them, you want to keep them, you want to do good work. You like these people. I'm really proud, actually, that all the clients we have now, most of the clients we've had in the past, I would say 80% of all clients I've really, really liked as people. So you see an opportunity, you do the extra work, you want to wow, but then the pullback of actually we're trying to run a profitable business here. I've had some really, really good lessons. Nina Webb from Brazen gave me a lesson once around kind of the cost, basically how much money you should have in your agency to hire another employee. And it stuck with me, that number. And I've tried it. It's so invaluable to make sure. I look at my girls and I think, oh, they're really, really busy. And I think we could bring you more clients. It's because we're doing such a good job for these clients and we're doing this extra work. So I'm very much the sort of, let's do this, let's do the extra bits. And Rebecca's going, pull it back. Let's bring in more brands. The girls can't do all this. So I think sort of walking that very fine line between trying to run an agency that's doing all the wow work and wowing clients and doing everything we can to impress these clients, but also an agency that's profitable and is making money and isn't just there, you know, to overservice. I think that's a very hard line to walk.
So hard. On Nina, I talk about Nina as the Queen of Manchester.
Queen. She's literally, I sat with her on a hen do at 3 a.m. and I said, I don't know how to scale. And I don't know if I'm doing things correctly with money. And she said, what are you billing? I told her. And she said, how many employees have you got? And I told her. And she said, right, do this. And I didn't say what it is, but she said, there's a number. And that's the number you need to be billing before you hire somebody else. And it was that. And that's what we do. And I think people like that who give that sort of insight, I would never have got that from anybody else. And that was on a hen do, 3 a.m, drunk in some house somewhere. You know, I think that's the thing about Manchester. I will say that. I think the community here, certainly of my generation, the Ninas, the Daisy Whitehouses, all these sorts of people who have come through with me, I genuinely think the willingness to help each other out, to support each other, to give advice, I think it's second to none. And I find that really, really strong here. And you feel safe in that community, I think, which is great.
Nina, I reached out to her a long time ago and I said to her, I'm at previous work, I'm having to build. I'm being asked to build plans to grow and yada. And I'm ripping my hair out. Can I pick your brains? And he was like, oh, I don't know if I'm the best person to help. And she put me in touch with Paul Carroll.
Yes.
I think, love Paul. Love Paul.
Yeah.
And had a coffee with Paul, talked him through my plans. He gave me some ideas. And at the end of it, he said, can I just ask, why are you doing this for someone else?
Oh my goodness.
And that bang.
It's the light bulb.
Because I, for the longest time, would love to have done that. But I thought, I need someone serious behind me.
You need someone serious.
Someone
you
in
need
suit.
a grown-up.
I need a grown-up. And that moment, and actually it was how do we put it? It was a bit of a stitch up in the best way.
Yeah.
Because actually, I think Nina recognised what was going on.
You were always, you should always have done your own thing.
But you
did.
You need that confidence.
You do.
To get to that point. And Nina has been for us just a constant sounding board and like one of the first people that reached out.
Absolutely. When we won PR, when we won Micro Agency of the Year, it was Nina and Tom who took us over the road and bought a round of shots for the team. And, was over. I was having a Mother's Day lunch with my mother in Altrincham. Nina and Tom on the next table. She pulls a chair over. How's it going? Really, really supportive person. And I think that I see that a lot here. I see the LinkedIn posts, people post their wins. People genuinely are offering congratulations here. There's no real spite. I've been in pitch situations with people where we know who they are and we've texted each other going, how'd you go on? How did you go on? Have you heard anything? Have you heard anything? And it's it's not a rivalry. It is a rivalry because we're all trying to make money. However, it's a genuine, well done. I'm really pleased for you sort of situation. And I think that's happened a lot. And I think I hope that I can do that as I sort of, carry on getting older. So the agencies that are coming up, I would like to sort of be that. I wish that I'd had a bit more mentorship. I do think that, certainly not so much in terms of going through my training roles from account executive to an AD, I had all that, but the leap from employee to ownership, I look back, I remember I had a boss, Ruth Shern, who runs RMS, who is just the nicest woman you'll ever meet. And she took me out for lunch when I first launched Full Volume, gave me some invaluable tips, and that sticks with me. But I've never had anybody who's sort of come in and said, right, this is what you need to do. But then I think everyone's sort of winging it anyway.
Hey, they're winging it. And I also think you've got to have those moments. You've got to have those moments of, oh my God, what have I got to do in this situation? And then you realise that you can do it.
You realise you can do it. That's exactly it. And I think I feel, you take it for granted now. I look back having Full Volume and it's nearly 8 years old and it's doing well and we've got a great team. Our team, no one's left. Nobody's ever resigned from my business, which I'm really proud of. We've got rid of people. but nobody's left by choice. Can you say that? And that makes me really proud.
Yeah.
You know, my account director, Kate, it was her first job out of university.
Yeah. I
She's
remember her
been
joining.
with me. Yeah. She's been with us 5.5 years, and now she's an account director who tells me what to do, which is just absolutely. I wasn't feeling particularly well a couple of days ago, and she said, "I don't want you to come on this call. I don't want you to come on this call. I can handle it." I thought, oh my goodness, how, you know, that sort of stuff makes me really proud.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. You know, you never really know how tough you can be until you have to make these decisions.
I love when you post on LinkedIn, because when you post on LinkedIn, it is not.
No, I need to do better though, Josh. I do.
You share things that I think all of us are going through.
Yeah.
And there was a thing you put on recently about summer and feeling that,
wanting to jump off a bridge in August. Yeah, I did.
That challenge. You talked about clients and ghosting, and I think
I did one last year, actually. Yeah, I think I might have annoyed some people with it, but I don't regret it. We had a new business opportunity, and the hoops we jumped through. We were doing calls at 6 a.m. with Australia to get this signed off, and just a load of nonsense. And it turned out really there was no budget signed off, and this has been going for about 4 months. And it really just pushed me to a bit of, when is this going to end? You know, who in this industry is going to address this issue with ghosting and overpromising and clients who just waste your time? And I did a post, and I don't know how do you define viral? Anyway, I think it was quite big. And I thought then, I think it's important. If I'm feeling it, so are 100 other people. Yeah. If I'm feeling it in my position, in my, small agency, if I'm sat here worried about people ghosting, people wasting my time, then I know so many other people are saying, feeling that as well. And I think people sometimes are a bit scared to say it, to put their head above and say, do you know what? This is a real situation. What are we going to do about it? And if we can't do anything about it, can we discuss it? Yeah. I think there's power in a team. There's power in not feeling like you're by yourself. And I think I had something like, God, it was like 2,000 comments on that post, and everybody was feeling the same. I mean, there's no answer, there's no move to change, but I do try. And when I put that post up about August, I was a bit nervous about that, because I thought, is a client going to see that and think, what are they doing in August? They're doing work, are they really quiet? Are they going under? But I always find August quite depressing. I feel like journalists are out, so the girls are doing their outreach. Nothing's really landing. From a new business point of view, it's just like some sort of wasteland. I don't really enjoy it at all. And I've always said when I'm super rich, I'm just not working in August. Yeah. I'm literally going abroad. I'm going to rent an Airbnb for a month, just take my laptop. But I think it's important to post the things that you're really feeling. I think, again, it goes back to what I was saying about brands. I think the authenticity has to be there. I read so many LinkedIn posts, and I just think, well, this is just bollocks. Yeah, you don't mean any of this. You're posting today because you feel that you should post today. Yeah. But I think it's quite hard with LinkedIn, because I need to post more, but I don't want to post anything that I don't really feel or think.
Well, then that's it. That's all you should post.
Yeah.
I love them, because I think there is a you have to present this kind of perfect image, and we all know that perfect image, both in work, both in business and in personal life, doesn't exist. But you don't see it very often. I had one where we had a client that I think it had ticked up to something like 217 days overdue.
Oh my goodness.
And I was bored of having to send email. I was just bored. There's no
end to it. It's boring.
And I'd already kind of factored it, and I was like, right, okay, let's wipe it off. But in a sense, we shouldn't have to do that. But in a sense, I was like, actually, we're established. Yeah. Imagine if you're a freelancer and
totally
you are just that's the norm. And I wrote a post. I went to one of those those motivational poster things.
Did you?
Those stupid things.
Yeah.
And I made it say, "Pay your fucking bills."
Your fucking bills.
And then I had a post about it, and Luke was like, "You don't need to put fucking in it." And
you do.
No, you do actually.
Because that's you.
It's me.
Yeah.
And actually, it also
Please
demonstrates.
pay me on time. That's not. You're furious. You've chased this bloody invoice for 217 days.
It's bonkers. But it's that. What I was thinking was, I'm not standing up for the big agencies there. And I suppose you are, but I'm not standing up for the big agencies. I'm standing up for the people that are smaller than us. And what we all need is, a big brother, big sister.
God. Yeah,
that's what we all need.
We do. And I think that's the thing. I do try, and always, rightly or wrongly, I do always try and be who I am. And I think that's probably the biggest lesson. It's being, accepting of yourself. I know that I talk a lot. I know that I'm very nasal, very northern. I think sometimes in your business meetings, a client will say, a product prospect will say, what do you think of this brand? And I'll go, well, I'm not sure. And Brad goes, oh my God, shush. And I think, well, no, because we've got to be honest. And I think that's really important. I don't lie. I got caught out once lying in a pitch. Client didn't catch me out, but we were talking about, ironically, we were talking about podcasts. And this was a good 6 years ago. And I was going on about, how we can get you on this podcast. And Rebecca had said to me in the run through, Caroline, don't say that, because they call you out. You haven't got an answer. You don't know what you're talking about. It's fine. One thing they steward, oh, I'm really interested in that. Could you elaborate on how you might do that? And I was like, oh my God. And that was my lesson, try not to lie, try not to be a bullshitter, and just try and show up as yourself. So far, so good.
So far, so good. So far, so
Let's
great.
see.
Full Volume
was
named Micro Agency of the Year in 2024.
That was a good moment.
I remember watching, I think we were like 2 tables over, and I remember watching, and I remember this moment specifically because I remember looking at you guys, and I don't think you thought you would want it.
We had genuinely, and I'm sure people do say this, genuinely hand on heart, I thought we did not have a chance in hell. I thought that my AD would win Young Communicator, and actually the two flipped. And I was very, very confident that she would win, and somebody brilliant from Brazen beat her. And at that point I was disappointed because I thought, I thought you really deserved that. Genuinely had no idea. And then when they said it, it was kind of weird. It was Nigel Sarbus that said it, who I've known for years. And before he said my name, he said, Caroline, come on up, Full Volume. And I heard him say that, and I thought, no. And it was a big moment. It was a good moment.
What, awards aside, what does that do for you and the team?
Well, this is what I was about to say. I'm not the biggest fan always of awards. I think sometimes, we've entered them, we do them. I think some of them can cost quite a lot of money. They can be a slog. I have a real problem with sitting down and writing an entry. It takes me a lot of time to do it. I struggle writing things down. So, I find it a slog. But for that one, I think for the team awards, it was all about the girls, really. It wasn't so much about Rebecca and I and the business. I think some of the judges' comments on PR on our award entry, I think it says something like, this is an agency who really understands how good culture can shape success. And that was a proud moment. I want my team to go to awards dues. I want them to go on stage in the glamorous black dresses and get a trophy. I've done that myself when I was an AE and account manager. I think it means a lot. I think that there's been some real standout moments, but I think that was probably the biggest. It's the most embarrassing video. My friend Sasha, who's the MD of Brazen, she videoed the whole thing, and I look like I'm just completely shell shocked. I just don't know what's going on.
Exactly. But that was so I was sat literally here like that to you, but on the other side I could see it.
When it's one of the last awards of the night, you're 12 Proseccos deep. Chicken
and rice down.
And you've ignored your dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
And
you chatted too much.
You drank the rough red white wine. So I think there've been some standout moments. We didn't win this year. We'll keep entering. I think it sets a standard as well for us. I think we've won that and we were very proud of it, so we need to continue doing better. We won the micro agency. Next year, can we go to the boutique agency? The year after, can we be the medium-sized agency? I think it pushes you on in terms of wanting more recognition and more sort of happiness for your team, I think.
You talked about culture.
Yeah.
What are the surefire signs to good culture?
Honesty, flexibility. Do you know what? I've always said this from day one, and I believe it, and people say that I'm wrong. I don't know how to phrase this without sounding kind of big-headed. It's not meant to. When I got promoted to account manager and then to account director, I always did well with teams, with people. My accounts did well. I went up the ladder with good performing accounts and good staff, and I think it's because people see me because I was their friend. People want to work for somebody they like and for somebody who treats them well. So for me, a good culture is all about treating people really well, It's about being honest. We give our team lots of good perks, but that's not why they stay. No. They don't stay because, I'll come in once a week with a bag of bloody croissants, or I'll let them go early on a Friday. They stay because I think they know they're trusted to get on with their work. They're trusted to be adults and grown-ups, and they know that we see them as an integral part of the business and respect them in that way. My account director said to me one night, actually, we had a night out, and she's not that talking. She doesn't talk to me that much about personal stuff, but she said to me, I know, this really meant a lot to me. She said, I know I could WhatsApp you one morning and say, I can't come to work today. And you would just reply and say, okay, that's fine. Yeah. She said, and that's so powerful for me. She said, because I know I trust her. If she says to me, I can't come in today, she'll go, you can't come in today. Yeah, you don't. No, that's it. She can't work today. So we cover her and she comes back the next day. And I know it's a genuine reason. And I think we've built something quite special and quite good in that sort of situation. Sometimes I think it can be unprofessional, we sit there and it's we're five women in a room, it's noisy, I think to myself, we talk about things like politics, we talk about the world, we all have very different views on things. And sometimes I think, as the boss, should I be shutting my mouth and basically not saying what I really think? But I don't, and no one's quit. So, know.
Depends what your views are, I suppose, but...
They're all very safe. I just think, be nice to people, treat them like adults, treat them like, they're a key part of the fabric, which they are, and you won't go far wrong. But that's my proudest thing. Of everything we've ever done, the fact that no one's ever resigned from this agency makes me the proudest.
I think I might know the answer to this already, but when you look back at your entire career, what is the thread that runs through it all for you?
How do you mean thread?
What's the thing that, drives you, keeps you, what are you bringing in each of those situations?
Honesty, noise. I was going to say truthfulness. That's another word for honesty. I think that hopefully, this is going to sound bizarre, just go with it. I think that hopefully I'm a bit of a walking ad for how you can be okay and do okay by being unapologetically yourself. And I think that I've tried to keep that from day one. I've always sort of, be quiet. No one's ever done that, but I've never really tried to tone myself down. And maybe I should have done. There might have been brands in new business meetings. I remember I did have one. I remember we pitched, so I won't say the brand because it's a big household name actually. When I was an account executive in London, and we pitched in the room and they said, we'll only go to a second stage if she's not in the next stage.
What had you done?
No, literally nothing, just really rude. They just didn't like me. And my boss, my boss handled it brilliantly. They called me in and they were like, look, we're going to have to take the second stage because it's a big client, but they're ridiculous. It's nothing to do with you. And I think at times like that, you could maybe think, do I need to be quieter? Do I need to not be, me? You could really knock your confidence, a 24-year-old girl who's in one of her first pitches. But I think hopefully that I didn't do that. I haven't. I've only ever tried to be myself.
I was going to say the thing I thought would be the thread was other people, in the way that you engage with other people. Yeah. So when I've worked with you, there's been that, it's always very, I don't know how to best describe it. It's always been very real.
It is real.
We will giggle about things, right? And we will have those moments.
If anyone find our WhatsApps, we'd be in trouble.
But we will. But it's very. I want to say where you stand. Of course you do. That's standard. No, it's not, but there's no kind of. No, there's not. It's just straightforward.
It's straightforward. It's straightforward. I think actually that's one thing I will say. I think that I'm really, really nice to the team. However, there are a couple of times a year where I really do get pissed off, and it's that I don't hold back on that either. No. And there was one. The girls won't thank me for this. There was one time they were just supposed to do something. They'd all buggered off to lunch and not done it. When they came back, and I could hear my own tone. It was icy. I scared myself. But I think that's important as well. I think people need to know where they stand. Yeah. And I think that's key. And I think, we're very good at giving praise and looking after people. But I think if somebody messes up, then it's important to sort of feed that back as well.
Praise is pointless if there's nothing to grow from it.
But I think day to day, we're all in the same boat. I don't think anybody really knows what they're doing. For me, it's always been about honest and clear client service. So if the client's got a problem, giving a realistic solution, not over promising, not flattering egos, being really honest about that. I think the staff the same, treating them well, being really kind and authentic with them, but not being scared again to sort of say if something's not quite right. And just being who you are. And I think for me, like I said, the biggest thing is always having somebody to bounce that off. Rebecca will never try and tone me down, but sometimes she'll just go. It's like the episode of Friends when they tell Ross to be quiet, literally with the hands. Take it down a notch. But yeah, having her who's a calmer presence, who, this morning I woke up, I thought, oh, she's on holiday this week. And I thought, oh no, has anybody paid the girls' salaries? No, you have to do it. I was like, oh, God, okay. That's what I need her for.
I love it.
No, I've been paid at 8:30, so I've sorted it now. So yeah.
If you could go back and you're meeting Caroline that first day when she's walking into that agency, what piece of advice are you giving her?
General life advice or PR advice?
Both. It's the same, I think.
Save some money.
Save some money.
Save some money. Do you know what? This is embarrassing to me. I never had any real savings until COVID, until I was 40. I've always been very much a live for the moment sort of person. I would say to that 22-year-old, you do not need that Mulberry handbag. You're not an it girl. What are you doing? Save your cash. The second thing I'd say is, I don't actually know what I'd say. I think I'd say it will all work out. Just be confident in who you are. Don't ever try and change yourself to sort of fit a particular mold. Work as hard as you can, because certainly in this industry, there are a lot of very talented people, very creative people, very, very hardworking people. There'll always be somebody who works harder than you, or who is better at this, or who's better than that. Work as hard as you can, be yourself, don't apologise, save some cash, and just be nice. I think that's the key. My old boss Ruth had this, the poster everyone's seen, but it's, the work hard and be nice to people in her office. That's the thing. Yeah. I think that's, if you're showing up every day, if you're going home every day and thinking, today, I've been decent to this client, I've been decent to my employees, I've grafted, I've done this, I've made progress, we've had a laugh, we've made some money, then you're doing all right, aren't you?
Finally, Caroline, what is it that makes you feel accidentally brilliant at work?
I think I'm good at reacting quickly and agile, with agility to any tricky situation. I do think that if there's a problem and a client says, can we jump on a call right now? There's no fear. I'll try and know the answer. I think if one of the team is struggling with something, I think now I instinctively sort of know what to do. And do you know what? Even if I don't know what to do, I think what it is trusting your instincts. Whether they're right or wrong, I've certainly got to a stage this far in, 20-something years in, where I think, right, this might not be the right thing to do, but I think it's the right thing to do. So we're going to roll with it. And I think that's maybe in the last sort of 2 or 3 years been quite a big shift. And then remembering as well that actually I've got somewhere, I've come a long way from somebody, that 22-year account exec, I've somehow we've built a business that's working. And I think it's sort of giving yourself a bit of respect for that and a bit of a pat on the back for it and thinking, do you know what? An action is better than no action. So what should we do here? Even if it's the wrong thing, I will always try and do something. And I think usually it's right.
Caroline, thank you so much.